Zidane Daney, Electro Ninja here, and welcome back to Nerd Chat here on Electro Ninja's Lab. And I'm here with my fellow hosts.
I'm Jack.
I'm Joker.
And today we are going to try to talk about Marvel, as well as representation in media, especially because of the fact that Echo just came out. We wanted to talk about how the actress is actually deaf, and they did a lot.
Yes,
with that.
disability representation and awareness via Marvel movies, which is kind of awesome. Marvel has always been a huge part of pop culture in the sense of it's always been involved in what the modern thing is. For instance, I mean, think about Captain America. When he first came out, they were in the middle of World War II, and his goal was to punch Hitler in the face. Like, that was the thing.
Yeah.
And he was also in, short films about collecting scrap metal or, various things that just kind of gave people hope.
Yeah, exactly.
During a really hard time. He was also part of propaganda for the U.S. military, which was kind of unknown at the time, is that he was definitely right up there with Uncle Sam as propaganda for the U.S. military, which I'm not saying propaganda as a negative intonation. Don't get me like that. Propaganda it can be beneficial at times. So
yeah,
he was advertising, I guess you could say, for the U.S. military.
And to be fair, we were literally in one of the biggest wars ever. So it's like,
yeah, I mean, they called World War I. They called it the war to end all wars, but World War II happened, and they suddenly realized that maybe that wasn't the war to end all wars.
Yeah. And there's
World War I was also a lot of people just wanting to test out new weapons on each other and not really having a reason.
Yeah.
So,
Meanwhile,
there is that.
II was just so much.
World War II, at least there was a reason because they wanted to get rid of Hitler.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons, and I know this isn't Marvel, but that's one of the reasons that instead of setting the original Wonder Woman movie in World War II as it was supposed to be, because she was DC's answer to Captain America at that point, the World War II hero.
Yeah.
But instead of putting her in World War II in that movie, they put her in World War I because they wanted her to face a much less black and white who's good, who's bad.
Yeah.
And since during World War I there wasn't really a genocide going on, it was much easier to say, okay, well, these are they bad guys, or are they just, do they see it one way, or what's the scoop?
Yeah.
Whereas World War II, you definitely know who's good and who's bad. There's a clear distinction between who's good and who's bad, which does tie into Captain America. Yep. Because Captain America is the American good old boy who is a black and white thinker, who is good versus evil. You can see in the movie even, he says things like, there's only one God, ma'am, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that. So he's stylized.
Yeah.
Feel free to tell me to shut up. I'm really hyper.
You're good. I think that's kind of a good point, though. And obviously Captain America is a great example for that point. They've continued to still do more stuff along those lines with making sure that there's representation. Daredevil, great example. And while the actor is not actually blind, he deeply
did a great job.
He did a great job, and
he did what an able-bodied actor should do when playing a disabled character, which is spend a lot of time researching it.
Exactly.
That's one of the things. That's one of the reasons I'm not super mad about the movie or the show Atypical. Excuse me. Because even though Keir Gilchrist is not autistic, he spent a lot of time with autistic people trying to learn how they think and understand the world. So it wasn't like he went into it going, oh, I know how to do this because I'm neurotypical, I can be anybody. He did a lot of research because he understood that people are different.
Yeah.
So that kind of thing helped. And the guy in Daredevil did that as well.
Yeah.
He studied how do blind people, how do they look?
Yeah.
What do their eyes do? What do, various things like that. And I appreciate that.
To the point where he had a hard time getting other jobs afterwards because he had gotten so used to looking straight ahead, not looking at people and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, he got so used to staring off into space because he was supposed to not be able to see anything that it affected his method acting ended up affecting him in more than just this short or this show.
Yeah. And to be fair, when you're dealing with something like Daredevil, you kind of want someone who can do method acting because it's really hard to switch your brain between, oh, let me stare off into space because I'm not supposed to be able to see, versus
Yeah.
so you really need someone who is at least able to methodly act like that for at least a good while. So
Yeah.
because
I will say
switching
method
that is
acting
just
is
hard.
not appropriate for every character. You know, characters like who was it? There was a method actor. Was it Heath Ledger who method acted so hard into Joker that he like had to get psychological help?
He might have. I know Jared
Was
Leto
it
was
him?
also really bad.
Definitely Jared Leto had that happen. I think it was him I was thinking about because if you method acting so hard into a character that's actually psychotic
Yeah.
can be a
Yeah,
little
that
dangerous.
I think so. I think that both Jared Leto and Heath Ledger
Because I mean, Heath
both were
Ledger
method
obviously had
actors.
mental health struggles because, well, we all know how he exited the planet. So
Yeah, but yeah. So I don't know. It's just so obviously those both of those two I think were method actors and they
yeah,
should have gotten some more help. Jared Leto
absolutely.
probably still needs a lot of help.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, after playing that Joker for so long, yeah, he probably needs some serious help.
As well as to he should probably especially with Morbius as well. That was also kind of like,
True.
if you heard about those, then yeah.
Yeah. Another method actor was the guy who played in Split. Apparently, he did a really good job understanding as best as he could, you know, because the movie is it's a pretty bad representation of dissociative identity disorder. But he did the best he could, knowing that the movie was going to not be a great representation. He did the best he could
Yeah.
with kind of what he had, which I appreciate, you know, because if you're going to make fun of a disorder.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I think that is honestly kind of that series is weird because the fact that like the first one was absolutely amazing and then Split
They just kind of went
happens and then
downhill.
Glass and it's just like
Yeah.
those two were not nearly as good as Unbreakable.
Yeah, I agree.
And I don't know. Like I don't know. We're going off track. But
Yeah. Back to Marvel.
back to Marvel.
Marvel has always also been quite good at not stigmatizing people. Much like
Yeah.
Star Trek, they kind of decided that in the future and in various timelines, especially in Marvel timelines, they're going to not really give a damn about disabilities. Disabilities are going to be accurately supported, and that's kind of going to be that. Like you see, one of the key things I want to bring up, one of the like hugest key things is Sam's character in the Avengers. That's the Falcon.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
Falcon is really awesome, and one of the things that are super, super, super important about the Falcon is his leg braces. And I don't say that because, you know, he's disabled or whatever, but because he doesn't make a big deal about it. He just wears them. He got hurt, he needs leg braces, and he doesn't just wear like little leg braces, kind of like Forrest Gump does. The man wears hip to ankle AFOs. Those are some intense leg braces. That mean his legs cannot hold themselves up by themselves. Like he
So,
does not. He would be paralyzed without them, basically.
in the comics,
And in the show, in the movie,
uh, not
if
War
you
Machine does that, but
oh sorry, maybe it was War Machine. You're right. I'm sorry. It wasn't Sam. It was the
yeah.
other guy.
Yeah, I'm forgetting what his name is as well. Don't worry about
Well,
it.
Not the Falcon, but War Machine. You're right. I was wrong. It wasn't Falcon. But you're right. War Machine does that. And that's the thing is like they're not even mentioned. They're just a thing that exists.
Yeah, I mean to be
And
fair, it is shown because of the fact that like he did have to relearn to walk because of the fact that he literally broke like his
he broke his back.
yeah.
He broke his spine, and that's a real thing. Like spinal cord injuries are very real things.
Yeah.
And it's super awesome to see a representation of not only someone who has a spinal cord injury, but someone who has a spinal cord injury who wears hip to heel braces and is still a superhero. Like
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely.
yeah,
That's
but with the new
amazing.
stuff, do you care about spoilers, Jack?
Nope, as usual, I do not.
So
Okay.
yeah, just
Well, the
don't
new
go past
stuff does-
episode 3 for Echo.
Yeah, the scroll, Secret Invasion, after Civil War, War Machine is a scroll. So it's not actual War Machine in Infinity War.
In Infinity War, I think it is still. It might still be him. I think they don't really specifically show exactly when he is the. They don't really make it clear when exactly they switched him.
Well, he can't be in Endgame because he disappeared and then he came back in the blip.
True.
So it has to be the scroll in Infinity War.
I don't think it would be.
That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought of it like that, actually.
Because he flipped away, and so he comes back.
Right.
Yeah, but he doesn't like
and it can't be.
I don't know.
Because he's still in Scrubs when they rescue him from Secret Invasion.
Oh,
true.
That is true. But he was able to walk pretty easily, I think. At that point.
Well, so his spinal cord injury was not a complete severing.
Yeah.
A complete severing is going to leave you paralyzed. Like, bottom line, it's going to happen. What he had happen was more of a damage, and it wasn't a complete sever. So he has damage, and that affected the nerves in his legs, and it didn't necessarily take away his entire ability to walk.
Yeah.
But it did make it a really challenging.
Hmm.
Still, because it's not a typical spinal cord injury where he would end up using a wheelchair. It is kind of cool because we have wheelchair representation. That's relatively common-ish. It's not as common as it should be because there are plenty of people who use wheelchairs who don't see themselves in media, and that sucks.
Yeah.
But it is one of the more common, I'd say. It's one of the more common, I'd say, representations in media. Whereas people who have spinal cord injuries who don't use a wheelchair, oftentimes they don't see themselves in media because it's not a well-known thing that happens.
Yeah. And, I mean, to be fair, the only real thing that I can think of right now is sometimes Barbara Gordon.
Yeah.
And it's, but at the same time, they've done a few different methods of her. Like in, I think Titans, she lost a leg. It wasn't that she had a spinal injury or anything like that. It's just that she lost a leg and she has a hard time walking around with like a prosthetic or anything like that. So she just decided to go with a full wheelchair. But I think like in I think in Young Justice she had a spinal cord injury. I don't think they ever specifically mention it, but but she's just in one of the I think in the third season she's just in a wheelchair and she becomes Oracle. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of different versions, but the most common version of her spinal cord injury is Joker shooting her in the stomach.
Right.
Yeah.
And so then she becomes paralyzed because Joker finds out that Barbara Gordon, I don't know if he finds out that she's
Batgirl,
but he does try to hurt Gordon. And so in order to hurt Gordon, you gotta hurt Barbara.
Yeah.
Right.
And then I think another one version is that with Scarecrow, but that's the least known one, and she falls off a building and breaks her back.
Yeah. Yeah, and honestly,
but the most common one is Joker.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. So but that's also another thing to think about is like really the very rarely you can't really do too much with having somebody being in a wheelchair. Usually it ends up that person will end up being the guy in the chair, such as obviously Oracle in the Batman universe, or certain spider people. There are several different spider people, so it's like that are in wheelchairs. I don't know all of them, but like
That's true.
some of them they are literally piloting a robot from at their home or whatever. There is one that obviously she is in a wheelchair and she like tricked it out to be like super badass. Um,
That's cool.
yeah, there's a lot of really interesting ones, and I think like another Spider Woman is she just like use spider webs to basically bind her legs, and then she has like and then she either just uses her arms or she has like the four arms that the Superior Spider-Man has. I don't remember exactly.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so there are a few. I think most of the uh, wheelchair users for the Spider People are mostly Spider Women, but yeah, but that's just
Hey, but that's okay. I love a disabled woman character. Like that's double representation right there.
yeah.
Of
Yeah,
all the people who
I'm
are
just saying
usually
that
disabled in
that's
media,
what I
it's
think
usually
most of them
men.
are. I don't think there might have been a Spider-Man in a wheelchair, but I don't know for sure yet. So
Yeah,
but yeah,
I
there's
will say I do like the various the variety of disability we're getting now that Echo has come out and the actress herself is actually deaf. That's kind of awesome.
yeah.
I will say, we still have a ways to go. When A Quiet Place came out, obviously, the little girl who was the main character in that story is also deaf. She's the main actress, and she's also deaf. And unfortunately, because there are some speaking parts in the movie, uh, they did not close caption the premiere for her, which made it super inaccessible, and that sucked.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that we've come a long way from there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we've come a distance.
Yeah. And I feel
it was,
like
however, Missa who told me that the Echo actress is deaf because I sent her a picture of the show Echo, not having done any research, and said, "How much do you want to bet that the actor isn't even deaf?" And she came back and she was like, "No, no, 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 no. The actor is deaf. I made sure. Like she like checked on it before she suggested it to her deaf clients." So I thought that was pretty neat. Not gonna lie.
nice. Yeah. One thing that I do have to say about Echo is that I kind of wish that they they showed the ASL a little bit more.
Yeah, I can get behind that. If they didn't show it very much, then it's hard to call it, ASL representation, really.
Yeah, like there is absolutely some good amounts, but they often
I
zoom
haven't
in
seen it,
close
so
they often zoom in close to people's faces, and it's like
which that does make it more accessible for deaf people watching because even if they don't know ASL, because you can't show necessarily complete, ASL. And ASL has so many dialects and various things like that. Like it's so different from region to region. If you show someone speaking up close to the screen, it gives a much better chance for someone to lip read.
yeah,
So that's probably why they're doing that. It's actually probably an accessibility feature, which is kind of awesome.
well, it's like when they're doing ASL, it's literally like let me do my ASL. Meanwhile, it's just subtitles. They're just putting the subtitles at the bottom instead of having it be zoomed out so that you can see the entire thing. It's not every time, but it does happen.
So wait, are they not simcomming then? They're not speaking and doing ASL. They're just doing ASL and they're not showing it.
Some of them, it's a little bit.
Oh, so they are simcomming. Okay, so they are simcomming. If they're simcomming, then that's fine. Yeah. Because if you simcom and you're doing you're speaking and doing ASL, then yeah, sometimes again because ASL is so dialectical and it is its own language, it can be hard to make sure that everyone's going to understand. And also another reason they might be hiding the ASL is because Marvel is all over the world.
Yeah.
And ASL is not the only sign language. And sign languages are vastly different from region to region. BSL is absolutely baffling to me. JSL is absolutely insane, especially since Japanese culture has a lot of different things than American culture. So actually, siblings in Japanese sign language is two middle fingers pointed, is two middle fingers sticking up and making kind of a dancing gesture, which would
Yeah.
not fly in the United States.
Yeah. So there, I can understand, yeah, why they wouldn't be showing that, because obviously, like.
So I'm imagining they probably don't show the ASL because they can't guarantee that everyone will understand it, but they can guarantee that people will be able to lip read.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's just certain parts of it that are like, huh. But like they're zooming
If
in
you
on
want,
Echo
I can
as
have
she's
Nissa ask.
ASLing, and it's like, huh.
I can have Nissa ask some of her deaf friends what they think of Echo. If you want a real deaf person's
yeah, I kind of
opinion.
would, because of the fact that it, like, especially because I don't know. There are certain things that I'm a bit that concern me about it, and I understand that it's going to be a different point of view for other people, but yeah, those are my 2 cents. I think that they should have done a little bit better, but it's whatever. So we'll figure it out. That's if you do want to ask her, absolutely please do, because that will give us some answers.
I'm sending her a text now.
Okay, cool. So yeah. But yeah, so that's just some things. Also, can we talk a little bit about dwarfism and how it often is not. It seems like it's really freaking hard for them to for anyone with dwarfism to get acting roles unless you're freaking Peter Dinklage or
Right. And even then, Peter Dinklage is so typecast; it's hilarious.
Yeah, like Peter Dinklage and Warwick Davis
are
the only
one
ones.
Kind of character.
Like
he only plays characters that are also dwarfs, like either literally or figuratively.
Yeah.
Like he only plays characters.
He's in the Hunger Games.
Is he? I haven't watched the Hunger Games because I don't like the Hunger Games, but
he's in the brand new Hunger Games movie.
Yeah, he is.
There's a new one?
Yeah, there's a new one.
Yeah. Oh, it's a prequel about no.
Oh, weird.
There's a book too. There's a book too. Oh, it is so weird, but it's so good.
I read the first Hunger Games, and I know the point is to make you uncomfortable, but I was thoroughly uncomfortable with how well she described some of those things, and I was like, I don't like how detailed you can be with those.
Yeah. And
it just like it was well written, I just didn't like it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
We watched the movie and we felt very uncomfortable. And it was weird because my youth group at the time was the ones who suggested it to me. And then we watched it and we were just like, this feels awful. Like she's winning this tournament and she does nothing. She just stands there, and like that's the big problem we have with it. And
I like it though.
Yeah, it just makes me uncomfortable, especially like maybe it's just because of the fact that we only watched the first movie, but
part of it is supposed to make you uncomfortable. It is an allegory about a very real like dystopian situation that's going on where people end up sacrificing others for the betterment of themselves, which is kind of what we're facing in the United States. Yeah. On the other hand, though, it doesn't have to be quite as detailed and gory and all of that.
Yeah.
You can make an allegory that works well without scaring the piss out of people.
Yeah.
Is what I'm saying.
This might make you guys happy. The what's his name? Peter, the guy that we were just talking about.
Peter Dinklage.
Yes. His character that he plays is the creator of the Hunger Games, and at the end of the movie, he's like, I never wanted this to be in place. I never wanted this to happen, but Snow's dad is the one that took his idea and put it into place.
Oh.
And so, like, the whole film is him trying to, well, at the beginning he's trying to get rid of it because people aren't watching it anymore. But then Snow's character comes in and, like, says, hey, why don't we get people to bet on the games to get more people into it? And then that changes everything, and then the games last until the Hunger Games series.
Yeah, the far future.
Weird. That's, yeah.
I mean, that sounds more interesting to me than per se like the rest of the Hunger Games series. Not gonna lie.
I don't know.
But I liked the new one because it shows how Snow went from this kind person to this crazy guy.
Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I do love a good villain origin story.
I mean, fair. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what?
Not Murtaugh. I don't love the idea of Murtaugh because, like, that's trying to be a redemption arc, and I don't necessarily get behind that super well. But
Murtag.
Because not all villains need. What's it? What is it? Not Murtaugh.
It's Murtag.
Murtag.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So the thing about Murtag is an interesting character. We're going off track, but at the same time, I kind of want to make it clear about Murtag is he never technically was a villain. He was basically abducted and then forced into the villain part. But
That's. I'll give him that. That's fine. I'll give him that.
But to be fair, at the same time, and it's one of the reasons why I really like Murtag is that despite the fact that he knows that that it was forced upon him, and he cannot forgive himself for the atrocities that he did.
That's super valid, and maybe I should give it a second chance.
Yeah.
Or maybe a chance, because I haven't given it any chances. But yeah, I feel like I need to read the entire Brizinger or Inheritance cycle over again before I read Murtag.
Yeah, and the thing
Which sounds like a hassle.
But yeah, so I would recommend. So obviously, Aragon, Eldest, Brizinger, Inheritance.
Yeah.
Fork the Witch and the Worm, and then finally, Murtag. Murtag you could kind of just throw it in at any time if you like pretty much right after Inheritance. But I do also recommend that you do at least at one point read the Fork the Witch and the Worm, because it has the first little section of Murtag in it. As basically, because this was when he was like kind of trying to figure it out and stuff like that, and apparently someone had asked him, hey, what was Murtag up to? What has Murtag been up to during this time? And he kind of jokingly said, at one point Murtag enchanted a fork and called it Mr. Stabby.
Nice.
And that is basically the story of the fork. And then they go
Mr.
over
Stabby.
briefly.
Nice.
He was not actually the one who named it. It was this little girl that is the point of view character for the fork, but yeah,
fair.
And she's just some random girl. My guess is that she's going to be important at some point, but at the same time, I don't know.
Probably.
But yeah, Murtag is really interesting. I think that if you guys get the chance, you absolutely should read it. And if honestly, the big thing is that he is trying to work to redeem himself. But and to a certain degree, it feels like he is starting to slightly forgive himself. He's not. He isn't quite there. Pretty much everyone. He knows that at this point, everyone. Not everyone, but his friends have forgiven him. They understood almost immediately that he was being that he was not mind controlled, but basically being forced
brainwashed.
Well, it wasn't even brainwashing. It was it was not mind control, but it was body control, I think is the best way to put it.
Interesting. So he had someone else controlling what he was doing.
Yeah, and basically what is going on with that is that Galbatorix basically forced Murtag into using the ancient language to swear fealty to him and basically do everything that he says. As such, he had to do all these atrocities that Galbatorix wanted him to do. Because of the way that
he was tricked, basically.
He wasn't tricked. He was forced. He was basically he was put in front of the eggs, and Thorn hatched for him, and then with the hatching, basically he and Thorn grew a deep connection almost instantly because that's how dragons work, and basically they tortured both Murtagh and Thorn until they swore fealty.
Oh wow! So it was coercion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So legitimately, he absolutely despises everything that happened, and he blames himself for it, even though honestly he really shouldn't. But once you
that seems more fair, because at least I thought of Murtagh as like the bad guy, but then if Galbatorix was the one controlling him, then that makes a lot more sense, honestly.
I mean, also at the same time, he's the one who actually kills Galbatorix, so.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, Zeus killed his own father, so that doesn't mean a whole lot to me.
Yeah, but I don't think it's not as clear in the inheritance in the first in the first 4 books exactly what happened, but Murtagh really goes in depth with exactly what happened and seeing how everything kind of went. Like, you know that he had been forced to swear fealty to Galbatorix in I think it might have been in Inheritance, it might have been in Briziger, not important. But you know that. Anyways, so they don't really go too much in depth with that, and that's why Eragon almost completely forgives him, and the same thing why Naswarda also completely forgives him, and Arya also completely forgives him. So, yeah. Anyways, so back to the actual point of the video.
Jeez, we always do this though. I mean, people should come to expect this at this point.
Yeah, they should. But yeah, I think that another important thing about like dwarfism, getting back to that point, is it's really weird how few series or anything, like, to be fair, if you're going to do anything with like dwarves and stuff, it's kind of an iffy situation to actually cast dwarves anyway, or people with dwarfism anyways, because of the fact that they don't, from what I understand, not every single one of them likes the word dwarf.
That's true.
And I can understand why, but I think that it's also kind of interesting, like, I don't know. There's a lot of things with that, and I would kind of like to see more from that, but at the same time, I can also understand why they wouldn't.
Yeah. Did you know there's a society called the Little People of America?
Yes. Yes, I did.
I did not. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah. So, I kind of found out recently, but at the same time, like, the way I found out about it was basically I randomly came across Pete Monzingo on TikTok.
Oh, he's such a cool guy.
And then because of him, I found out about his brother, who's also
a teacher, Mr. Monzingo.
Yeah.
And his whole family is little except for him. It's so funny.
Yeah. And,
I love him.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
I love the Monzingos so much.
Yeah, they're great. Not gonna go into too much detail, but like, they've all talked about like that stuff. Specifically.
Not what stuff?
So Pete specifically has kind of he spoke out against what they were doing with the Snow White movie.
Oh yeah, because they were being weird about it.
They were being really weird about that, and yeah, to be fair, I think that it's really weird that I honestly can't think of a single movie for any of the actors in Mirror Mirror besides the one guy, because he was also he was in Pirates of the Caribbean.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
And that's it.
I don't think I've seen Mirror Mirror.
You've seen Mirror Mirror.
Have I?
Yeah, we've talked about it in the past. It's like it's the best version of Snow White.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, we've talked about that in the past, and like, can you think of any of the other actors and what they've done? Anything else that they've done? Because I honestly can't.
I actually can't. No.
Because yeah, so like, unless you're like I said, Warwick Davis or we just talked about him.
Peter Dinklage.
Peter Dinklage, thank you. Like if unless you're talking about those two, you don't see much from the dwarfism community, and
You really don't. That's true.
and like to be fair, Peter Dinklage has gotten a lot. He's done a lot and stuff like that. In recent years, and Warwick Davis did a lot back when he was younger, and to the point where he played both Wicket and frickin' Reepicheep.
True.
And obviously
And,
Willow, like
and Harry Potter.
he was in Harry Potter, yeah, like 3 times.
No,
Well,
he's in all the movies.
he is in all the movies, but he's 3 different characters, right?
No, he's only one.
No, he's at
No.
least 2, because he played one of the goblins. So,
I don't know about that.
yeah, so he played. So I believe, if I'm remembering this correctly, he played one of the goblins. I don't know. Remember exactly which movie it was, but he definitely played one of the goblins, and then obviously he played Mr. What's his name? Filch? No, that's the other one. That's the groundskeeper. Not important. So but yeah,
Professor Flitwick.
thank you. So yeah, he's played 2 characters then. I always think that it's weird because of the fact that they changed the design for Flitwick.
Mm.
But it was always him. But yeah, so that's so Reepicheep, Willow, and Flitwick / the Goblin.
And multiple different Star Wars characters.
Yeah, multiple different Star Wars characters, most of which when he was very young.
No, he's in the new ones.
Is he in the new ones?
Yep.
I did not know that. Consider me surprised. But yeah, I think he like obviously he played Wicket. He
Because
played.
he's in costume, you don't really know that it's him.
Yeah, to be fair.
That's valid.
Yeah. He played the Greedo kid, right? Yeah, in the first in Phantom Menace. I think he played one of the kids in Phantom Menace.
No, I don't know if he did that one.
I'm pretty sure he played Greedo, the Greedo kid.
I don't know.
But he's like the one, yeah. The one kid who's played by an adult, because he would have been an adult at that point. But yeah, and then nobody else. Like I said, the one actor in Pirates of the Caribbean, he was obviously in Mirror Mirror, but like anything else, it's like, yeah. And then I'm kind of like, honestly, let me just put this out there for all things. Just don't do Snow White, Disney. Just stop. Like,
Fair.
Like,
We don't need a remake of your first movie you ever made. We just don't.
yeah, and like they just keep going with really bad ideas with it. Like,
I would agree.
So obviously, first off, they tried to do the frickin' instead of 7 dwarves, it's 7 magical creatures, and one of which was a dwarf. And then they decided. Then there was all the backlash against it, so they were like, "Okay, we're done." And also, there was a lot of weird stuff going on with that, anyways. So they changed that, but then now they've got it to being dwarfs again, but the dwarves are like really stereotypical dwarves, and they look.
Well,
They do not look right with a live action actress.
no, they look very computer animated.
Yeah.
What does Cloister evolve from? I forget. It's the...
Cloister, you said?
Yeah, Cloister evolves from what now?
Shelder
Shelder. That's right.
with a water stone.
Yeah. I was trying to figure... I know, so on my list, I only wrote, like, the evolved forms, or the ones I'm exactly missing, so sometimes I forget, like, what they exactly evolved from.
Yeah, fair enough.
Shelder. That's more sense.
Okay, where is Let me. I want to check something.
America is over.
Okay. So.
And there is no after credits scene. So Iron Man it is. No, not Iron Man. No, it's not Iron Man next, you creep.
But we should also probably talk about the fact that Marvel just had its 85th anniversary. You said.
It sure did. Yeah, Friday was Marvel's 85th anniversary, which is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was founded by Martin Goodman as Timely Comics on January. What is today? The 12th. So January 12th, 1939.
Dang.
And the first comic he ever put out was The Human Torch.
Really? So,
yes.
So this was before the Fantastic Four, even then.
Yes, the first comic he ever put out was.
Even before Spider-Man.
Yep, it was The Human Torch and an anti-hero called Namor the Submariner.
Oh, that's
wait. He was an anti-hero, you said?
According to Martin Goodman, that's what he decided he was. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still, I like. Speaking of the Submariner, well, I do kind of like what they did with him in Wakanda Forever. I kind of wish that they had gone with the original version.
That's valid.
Because what's the original version?
He's, yeah. Well, maybe not the original, but at least the comic, the main comic version.
It's okay, puppy.
But he, the big reason for it, that why they didn't go with that is because he looks nearly identical to Aquaman, except for the fact that he is wearing a lot less clothing.
Well, yeah.
But he does still have the
What?
He does still have the ears. But here, I'll go ahead and send this image to our group chat. But like, I don't know. Like, he's I think he's fine. I think that they did a good job with the new one. I don't know. He feels different, and I like, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's also not necessarily a good thing.
Let's see. Oh wow.
Yeah, you can see why it's so different.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like it's probably fine. Honestly, it is fine. They did a fine job with it. But didn't he die at the end?
I believe so. I can't remember precisely if he did.
Yeah, but
Die at the end of what?
You what?
Who died at the end of what?
At the end of Wakanda Forever, didn't Namor die?
Nope.
Oh, I thought he did. I thought somebody killed him.
Nope.
But
they're gonna do something more with him.
Okay, cool. But yeah, that's another thing as well, is like, I think the main reason why they changed him so much is because of the fact that he and Aquaman are extremely similar, and because of the fact that Aquaman had already is a lot more present in the world, people are gonna point at it and say, "Hey, that's an Aquaman clone," when in actuality, like, he's much older.
Apparently he came out before Aquaman.
Huh?
Apparently he came out before Aquaman did in comic-wise.
Absolutely. He absolutely did.
Aquaman is an old one, but DC... When was DC founded exactly? Hang on. I'm going to find that.
Well, DC's kind of an interesting situation anyways, because it's more... because a lot of the early DC stuff has absolutely no connection to the modern stuff. Like Batman.
Yeah, 1934. So it actually was before. DC actually did start before Marvel, but
Their first.
So, oh wow, yeah. So DC Comics was created in 1934, but their first comic they ever published was on April 1st or April in 1939. So they're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
At that point.
With and the same the other thing about that as well is that with DC versus Marvel in general is that a lot of the early Marvel stuff wasn't or a lot of the early DC stuff was not superheroes.
Yeah, it was all American. It was detective comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like the most
Batman was a detective.
The most that it had, the absolute most that it had when it came to superheroes early on was Batman. And even then, he was more of a detective than he was a superhero.
Well, even Superman, like Superman's first villains to fight were like Superman. Even when he was early on, Superman's main like opposers were businessmen and politicians, and like he didn't fight villains for a long time. He fought businessmen and corrupt businessmen and corrupt politicians. One of the most famous Superman comics is him going into a skyscraper in New York City, or not New York City, but whatever. Into a skyscraper. Yeah, Metropolis. Taking a corrupt CEO and bursting through a window, flying him all the way down at Mach speeds, almost to the ground, scaring the piss out of him, and telling him if he doesn't shape up, he's going to drop him, basically.
Yeah.
Like, Superman was a badass. I don't love Batman, but Superman can get it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Original Superman. I'm not talking Superman who's got all the ridiculous powers. I'm talking Superman who could jump long distances, not fly.
Yeah.
The OG Superman.
OG Superman.
Yeah.
The Superman whose powers make sense because he's an alien on a planet with different gravity.
Yeah.
Not the Superman who just kind of is.
Does whatever he wants.
Yeah, the Superman who just exists and literally just, like, can do anything because he's Superman. He can do whatever. That one I'm kind of tired of. I'm like, all right, you...
Yeah.
Yeah. You're too much. You're too super.
Yeah.
You're too super.
Also, can we briefly talk about, since we are on the DC topic, can we talk about, like, some of the weird shows that, or weird series that have literally nothing to do with the main stuff, but they've been really good recently? Like iZombie and Sweet Tooth.
Sweet Tooth is really good.
Yeah. And also, like, you wouldn't expect it to be DC, honestly.
True. I expected, and I knew it was a comic, but I originally actually, knowing it was a comic, I thought it was Dark Horse, not gonna lie.
Fair. And a lot of, to be fair, if it's not DC, most of the stuff that is not in the DC main universe or in Marvel Universe, it's usually Dark Horse, or there are a few others, but that's the main group.
Yeah, well, I put Sweet Tooth in kind of the similar category as, like, the Umbrella Academy, which is Dark Horse.
Yeah.
And so I thought, okay, I mean, they follow the same kind of grain. They're kind of weird outlier comics. That's usually what Dark Horse does.
Yeah, but nope, DC. It's just straight up DC. Same with iZombie. Same with Lucifer, which Lucifer is a little bit more connected, but at the same time, it's very different.
Sandman.
Yeah, Sandman as well. Like, great example. Like, you wouldn't expect these to be like the some of the like, they're great shows, and they will probably continue to be like, those that are continuing will continue to be great shows. But yeah, those are all DC, and you wouldn't realize it. Was Lock and Key was Dark Horse though, right? Or was that a different one entirely?
I think it was Dark Horse.
Okay, it might be a different one as well, but I'm just gonna make 100% certain. And Key, let's see here. Series. Why are you? Stop showing me just stuff about. Okay, comic. There we go. That is.
What's really
IDW.
is all like.
It's actually IDW.
Oh, is it? Interesting.
Yeah.
What's really crazy is all the Star Wars comics that you get are all, except for the manga ones, are Marvel.
That's true.
Yeah. Yeah. That. To be fair, though, yeah. But also speaking of that, the war between Marvel and DC, it kind of continues with manga. Um,
It does.
yeah.
Because
So they're basically in
DC
these two
manga.
opposite companies. So, Marvel is through Shonen Jump / Viz, and DC is through Kodansha, and those two are the main big competitors over in Japan. And it's just like,
That's true. That's a good point. I
so
hadn't thought about that.
so basically they were like, okay, which one? So Marvel was the first one to get a thing. So then DC is like, okay, let's we want to so we wanted to start appealing more to the Japanese market. We need to get some manga. We need to make some manga ourselves. Okay, so Marvel is going with Shonen Jump. Who do we go with to try and rip them a new one?
Right? And they were like,
Kodansha.
well, Kodansha makes bigger comics anyway, so let's go with Kodansha.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, obviously, there are obviously some pretty interesting things, and there's, like, I'm not gonna get into all the details now, but, yeah. It's just funny. It's funny as heck to think that even across the sea, they are still fighting each other.
I
That's
want
true.
the Joker manga comic that they have.
Yep. Although I do have to say, with Shonen Jump versus Kodansha, is that, or really anything under the Viz name, it is not. It's kind of a weird situation with those because of the fact that they are not really as much at war as Marvel versus DC, because pretty much every people will just get whatever manga they want. Most people do not even give a crap about who is the publisher. In comparison,
True.
like with the difference between probably the smartest thing that they could have that happened is Marvel working with Shonen Jump, and because of the fact that Shonen Jump is much more well known for like the action stuff, and and with My Hero Academia just recently coming out, they're much more well known for that stuff. And the same thing goes with a lot of other things. So them working with Shonen Jump was an extremely smart move. DC working with Kodansha, honestly, a bit dumber of a choice, because Kodansha is not really they don't really do that much when it comes to action-based things, comparatively, at least.
True.
Like they have Witch Hat Atelier. They have what else do they have? They have I have a lot less of that. They have Drifting Dragons and other much slower paced series in comparison to Shonen Jump, which is fast paced. You have to get your story going. You have to draw in the audience. And part of the reason for that with Shonen Jump is because of the fact that they throw a lot against the wall to see what sticks, and if it doesn't stick, you're canceled. I'm sorry, what was that?
Like Attack on Titan?
Yeah. Or for a good example of what didn't stick, Hunter's Guild Red Hood. But yeah, you have to be fast. You have to draw in an audience quickly, and while Attack on Titan is kind of in the opposite vein, it stuck with a lot of people really early on. So
Interesting.
there's a lot with it, and I don't want to get into too much details with that. Like I said, it's a rant for another day. But yeah,
Valid.
yeah. But I don't know, and I honestly think it's just kind of weird lately with Marvel and DC because Marvel keeps making the really good decisions while DC kind of just doesn't seem to. Like in at least in general, such as making what's a really good example? DC with the just honestly any of the movies that they in the current DCU or what was the DCU. That was just it was kind of just there, and I think I've said this for a long time. Marvel is good with movies, DC is good with shows, and while Marvel has been getting better with shows, DC has just always hit it out of the park with when it comes to shows. We
but they haven't hit it out of the park with movies, so I think that they're pretty evenly matched in that respect.
Yeah, but another thing about that with is that even though they continue to hit it out of the park with shows and stuff like that, most DC stuff is not going to the big companies, the big streaming services. It's usually going to HBO specifically, or and very rarely, but every now and again, you get the little sprinkle in on Netflix.
True.
And yeah, they just recently took all the DCU movies and put them on Netflix.
Yeah. But another thing with the HBO stuff is like HBO Max is kind of like they also are making really poor decisions. With
you're not wrong.
Specifically like getting rid of a lot of the cartoons and stuff, which that was just that felt like a dumb decision. That's honestly the big problem. Like, it's one of the reasons why I don't really do too much with HBO. But yeah, I don't know. But like, I don't know. There, Marvel started out with putting out like a ton of stuff on Netflix. But then once they made Disney Plus, they put it all over there, and it's a good thing because it means that all Marvel stuff is on one platform now, or it will be, if it's not already.
Well, all DC stuff is occasionally on one platform, and that's HBO.
I'm sorry, what? Oh, well, no, DC has some things on Netflix. All of the CW shows are only on Netflix currently. At least as far as
that's true.
So, which
or they're staying on the CW channel and not going anywhere except for HBO.
Yeah.
Like Superman and Lois. That's that's a CW thing, and currently only on HBO.
Yeah. Mostly like the early stuff, and I think that the earlier CW's things, and I think that the main reason why they're over on Netflix is because they had a deal with them, and that deal is still going. And then once that deal is over, they will probably move them all over to HBO.
That's probably so.
It's probably my guess is that it's the same situation.
All the Arrowverse shows are on Netflix.
Yeah. And you can kind of see where that kind of ended because Superman and Lois, like you said, that's on HBO. So
and CW.
Yeah, that's CW. So basically, as they once they finished up with all of the I think like they were realizing, oh, we should probably have everything all at one spot. But since they already had the deal between CW and Netflix, they were like, okay, everything that is we can't end the deal, but basically no more stuff is going to go to Netflix. Everything else, everything new is going to be going to HBO because that's new deal. Don't need to worry about it. But because of the fact that the deal was already set, they had to finish the shows, and those would continue to go to Netflix until they were all done. And then
except for the exclusive ones like
I
Yeah,
accidentally
man.
got distracted and left an Eevee in a picnic with a Ditto. Now I have like 30 Eevee eggs.
that's fun.
Yeah.
but like the exclusive ones of Sandman and Sweet Tooth, and then of course the ones on HBO, like Attack on Titan and all that,
Yeah.
or not Attack on Titan. I'm getting distracted.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
fair.
Titans.
Yeah. So yeah, they're trying to keep everything over on HBO now. It's just like because
Except for if you're in a different country, then it's on Netflix.
yeah,
Because HBO is not in every country.
yeah.
Clarion.
So yeah, it's those are just some little bit of a rant there, but yeah, that my
I've forgotten what we were talking
point
about.
is with that is that probably everything that is from the CW stuff is probably going to be going over. Pretty much everything DC is probably going to be transferring over to HBO at some point.
That makes sense.
My guess as to what might not is iZombie, because it has nothing to do with the main DC universe. Sweet Tooth, because again, nothing to do with the DC.
That was
universe.
also a Netflix original, so
Yeah.
Same with
I think Lucifer is kind of in a weird situation because of the fact that it started out as not being a Netflix series, but then it finished as a Netflix series.
yeah.
So that will probably stay on. I'm thinking that will probably
Netflix
stay
is
there.
probably going to keep Lucifer, especially because Lucifer has such an intense following.
Yeah.
They'll probably keep it.
Yeah.
and then of course Sandman is started on Netflix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that
Again,
will,
a Netflix original is probably going to stay on Netflix.
yeah, that is absolutely true, and I think that that's a reasonable assumption to make. However, I do think that
I wouldn't mind seeing Wonder Woman and the DC movies on HBO though, if they aren't already.
Which one?
They are.
Oh, they are? Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I
They're
need
on
to. I haven't
HBO
watched.
and they're
I
on
haven't watched
Netflix.
anything but Wonder Woman, and while I'm not interested in Batman or Batman vs Superman or anything, I am interested in Aquaman.
Yeah.
Aquaman is
because-
on Netflix and on HBO.
Yeah.
Is it? It is.
I'm not
Oh,
gonna
nice.
I'm not gonna go into too many details, but I still don't like.
I think
I don't like the
so,
current
I
Aquaman stuff.
don't like Aquaman, or don't like that particular Aquaman, which
I don't
is
like
totally
that
fine.
particular Aquaman. Yeah.
I may not either, just because like on the basis that Aquaman was the very first superhero I ever experienced.
Yeah.
That was a real superhero, not like something out of Zoom Academy for Superheroes or Sky High.
Yeah.
The first superhero I ever got to read about, I was given an omnibus of a bunch of like 1930s and 40s Aquaman comics, or 1940s and 50s Aquaman comics. And it's just beautiful. And I loved it. And I read that thing to death. And I took it everywhere. And Aquaman quickly became my favorite superhero, especially because, speaking of disability representation, neurodivergent representation is also really important, I think, in media. And one of the things that I would love to see in real life is Aqualad being confirmed neurodivergent in some way. Because, and I'll tell you why. In the original Aquaman series, Aqualad was Atlantean. And when you're Atlantean, there's a thing that happens that tells the other Atlanteans that you're going to be kind of a flaw in the system. Which is that you're born with purple eyes. And so kids born with purple eyes, usually they can't breathe underwater, or they have other reasons that make Atlantis inhospitable for them. And so, various things happen like that. And so Aqualad was born with purple eyes, but they couldn't figure out what was quote unquote wrong with him because he could breathe underwater and he was like completely fine in Atlantis physically. Then they discover that he's terrified of fish, and the thing about that is they sent him up in a baby pod when he was about 12, and that's how Aquaman found him. And Aquaman noticed that he had purple eyes and wondered why he hadn't been sent up at birth and all of that. And he ended up not forcing Aqualad to be involved with fish. Like, he worked very slowly, very much at Aqualad's pace, trying to show him, you know what, fish aren't that scary, and if you're Atlantean, you can communicate with them, so it's not that scary. And so he helped him face his fear, and that's how Aqualad became Aqualad. And I think that screams neurodivergent. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's
who
actually
has
really
random
interesting.
fucking fears of things that you shouldn't be afraid of? Neurodivergent people.
Was he always the son of Black Manta, or?
No.
Okay, that's just something that they added recently. Okay.
Yeah, that was a new thing. He was originally just a regular Atlantean kid.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Born with purple eyes, so they knew he was a flaw, but not why he was a flaw.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought that was kind of cool. Like, I always thought of myself, like, when I first started reading Aquaman, I agree. I related to Aqualad a bit and just being weird and not really fitting in and nobody knowing why. And so I always imagined myself, I used to draw pictures of myself and I'd give myself purple eyes because I was an Atlantean flaw, but no one knew why.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah. My big problem with Aquaman is less to do with him. Like, Jason Momoa.
You mean the movie? Okay, yeah. Just Jason Momoa is a beautiful, gorgeous, unproblematic man. So
yeah, well, unproblematic is a bit of an interesting question, but we'll deal with that later.
Is he problematic? I've thought he doesn't cheat on his wife. He's got kids. He's typically a good guy.
Typically.
Yeah, but he does drink a lot.
Okay, well that's a cultural thing as well. So some of that can be attributed to culture.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. We're not gonna get into all
Anyway,
of that
Jason
right
Momoa.
now. So Jason
You don't have a
Momoa,
problem
he
with
is
Jason
not the
Momoa.
problem. He is not the problem. He did a great job. He's the best part of that movie. Meanwhile, Mira, and she's just.
Remember, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So there is a
Amber
moment.
Heard's character.
Her, so she is very bland. Let me make that. That is one of the biggest problems. Which I haven't read everything about Aquaman, but I have read a little bit. She is not like that.
He's not a bland character, no.
No, she is like, if not,
she's pretty dynamic.
Yeah, she may not necessarily be the most powerful Atlantean mage, but she is definitely freaking close. If
She's
not,
up there.
She is definitely up there, if not the most powerful Atlantean mage. They never show that in the movie. They very, very much struggle with dealing with with doing any chemistry between the two, between her and Aquaman. Aquaman seems like he's putting out the vibes. He feels like a good character. Meanwhile, she is just bland. And then I point to this one scene that just bugs the crap out of me. And basically, they arrive at Atlantis, and she is driving. He is looking out the window, in awe, just in complete shock as everything is going on. Meanwhile, she's just staring. She's just staring forward, just driving. She doesn't look at him.
That's super annoying.
And it's
she's used to it. She's used to Atlantis. Aquaman's not.
That's
but here's
fair.
the thing. If you go to a place that you are used to, and someone that you... At this point in time, she should have a crush on... at least a slight crush on him. You take this person that you maybe have a crush on, or maybe you just are annoyed by the person. Even annoyance, which is supposed to be what's going on at this point in time. And you see that the person that you have to deal with is next to you in complete awe. Do you...
Wouldn't you be happy or, like, excited to show him the world or something like that?
Something like that. Something.
I don't know, anything.
Anything. Like, she just has a blank face. Doesn't say anything, doesn't look at him, just looks forward.
That's so annoying.
And
that would be like Thor's girlfriend not having personality. That's so dumb.
Exactly.
I feel like the biggest issue with it is with Amber Heard itself.
Yeah,
I mean, Amber Heard is trash, so
yeah. So she's
There's
not a
that.
great
She only
actress.
has a total of like 10 minutes in the whole second movie.
good because she's
Yeah.
garbage.
Yeah.
She's a
hardly in it.
horrible,
She has like
horrible person.
3 lines
Yeah.
in the whole movie.
Well, she deserves that because she is literally a worthless piece of person.
Yeah. So
If you
here's
can
the
abuse
thing,
Johnny
though.
Depp, I get that Johnny has issues and things like that, but if you can straight up abuse Johnny Depp, then you've got something fucking wrong with you.
Yeah.
And then try to blame him for that? Nah.
Yeah. And with that conversation, so basically what happened with the second Aquaman, at least this is what I've heard, is that they want to fire her. Elon Musk fucking...
Yeah.
Elon
Musk just ruined it.
Yeah, he told them that
What a
if you
shock.
fire her, I will sue you.
What a genuine shock that dumb fucking likes Amber Heard.
Yeah. So that happened. So they couldn't fire her. But
because Elon Musk has lawyers for his lawyers, and he really could sue the pants off someone for no conceivable reason.
Yes. So that's one
Just to
thing.
do it for fun.
So that's one thing. But on top of that, every time that she was even on set, they would mentally abuse her.
I mean, that's valid.
Like Jason Momoa would dress up like Johnny Depp on set just to fuck with her. And
I'm never gonna say that someone deserves torment, but in that kind of case, I definitely feel like she deserves everything she gets because she worked really hard to destroy Johnny's reputation.
I think that the big thing is that it, from what I heard, it felt a bit much. It's not necessarily like should she have been fired? Yes. Should she? Should they give her a lot of shit? Maybe, but dressing up like Johnny Depp, that
there is a line, and that seems to have crossed it.
Yeah, there are certain points that it seemed that it felt like they crossed it, and that's my biggest issue with the second movie, and it's part of the reason why I don't really want to see the second movie.
That's super valid, I think.
And like, I don't want to defend her. I don't like her. Period. But at the same time, yeah.
Oh, Joker's gone.
Joker disappeared. He probably had an emergency. We're going.
Well, he got summoned by his mother for whatever happened. So
yeah,
that turns. Well, now I have all the evolutions except Sylveon and Umbreon, so that's good. I think I'm gonna bring those over from home, quite honestly.
Yeah, but yeah. So
sorry. That was
so, like I said,
need any Eevee eggs? Because I have 5 extra.
Well, maybe later. We'll think about it. But so yeah, those are just like some of the things that I'm thinking about, and yeah. You should try and hatch them all. See if you get a shiny.
Probably won't.
Probably not. But at the same time, like, imagine if you did.
That'd be funny.
But anyways,
so many eggs to hatch,
we went off track by the end there. But
what? No way. Us? Unbelievable.
But yeah, so for those of you who are wondering, yes, this video was actually titled Marvel. As or whatever I fucking decide by this point. But yes, we are. So I want to briefly just say we are going to be changing things up a little bit with Nerd Chats. We are going to try to choose a topic. So basically, every time between Nerd Chats, we are going to we are in private discussing like what exactly we want to have in the next Nerd Chat, and we're going to try and stick to it. Are we going to? Clearly not, but we will see.
We'll do our best go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
We do our best.
So, anyways, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this Nerd Chat. I have been Electro Ninja. He's been Jack. Joker disappeared, and we will see you guys next time. But on.